Welcome to AM Best Audio.
The podcast called That Annuity Show brings you conversations with industry leaders who are revolutionizing financial products, technology, and distribution channels. Listeners can discover the trends shaping the future of retirement and so much more. It's hosted by Paul Tyler, and he joins us now. Paul, so glad you could speak with us today.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you for having me on your show.
Looking forward to talking with you here. And Paul, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. I have been in the insurance industry for it's almost 30 years. Probably, John, you name the job, I've worked in it. Which, I think in a digital age, I think it being to understand where the business starts, where it ends, is given me a remarkable, longevity and diversity in the types of projects and companies I've worked for.
Yeah, and 30 years ago, the digital age was just starting in insurance, right?
Oh, it was. In fact, I think just before I started with my first insurance company, I was working at a consulting company, and I was trying to convince them to do an internet strategy practice. And the big debate back then was, should we even have an internet site? So, things change, and things they don't. I think back then, the discussion was, is anybody, if you put a website up, will anybody come? I think today we're having the same sort of debate around AI and what the role may be in our industry. So, but I think what I find interesting about this industry is, we really are, people are very curious and very committed to delivering, what we promise to clients, agents, and policyholders.
Well, 30 years ago, nobody heard of the word podcast, and now you've got one. And what was the impetus for putting this podcast together?
Well, it's interesting. A long time ago when I was in college, I actually interned at a public radio station. And so I actually worked on a program interviewing artists. I learned, John, we had these things called reel-to-reels, had to take out the razor blade, spice the stuff together. So I've kind of been around the hoop for a while, and experimented with podcasts early with one of my companies that I worked for back in early, it's like 2011, 2012, had a little bit of success. And then, fast forward to when I was working at NASA, again, we were building a brand nobody knew. It was a new brand, building on a legacy of a company that had been around for 100 plus years, and thought, how could we actually bring position ourselves novelly in the industry? And I called up some friends of mine who worked at some of the bigger distributors. Said, how can we help? What's the problem you're trying to solve? And they said, Paul, we're actually building a mobile app. We're going to put this out in all our agencies. A lot of the people we're recruiting are people who need to learn about the annuity industry. Could you create a series that would be educational? Maybe we could play at the management meetings. I said, okay, well, we could do that. So we had a problem. And I knew a little bit about how to put this stuff together, nothing like you and your crew. So we experimented. We came out with, I think we recorded 10 shows. Some of the challenges, we had to come up with creative solutions, or how do you make this compliant? How do you make it conversational but still compliant? So solution was bring our head of compliance on the podcast and give us be part of the show himself. And so I'd say we iterated. This was 2000 and I guess it was 2018, late 2018. You kind of know where this is going to head. All of a sudden, pandemic's on top of us, and meetings are shut down. A lot of the people who would talk to people in our industry weren't flying anywhere. So we had this remarkable opportunity where, we could call up Tom Hegnet, call up Joe Jordan, Cheryl Moore. They were happy to come on. They were happy to talk. And so, we kind of slowly, built up a niche in I think an area where there weren't a lot of other voices at the time. And John, really, as much as it was about, creating a brand for our company. It was also just helping people who are, committed and passionate about the industry.
So let me get this right. You've been doing it since 2018, Paul?
Yes.
Kind of almost ancient history when it comes to podcasts, isn't it?
Yeah, almost. I think we're at like episode 270 or something. So
that's what I was going to ask. How many episodes have you recorded at this point in time? And
yeah, we're just a little under 300 at this point, which is, John, that's a lot of time to talk about an annuity.
So obviously you talk about annuities. What are some of the other subject matters that you tackle within the annuity space?
Yeah, we've covered a waterfront, everything from public policy to Secure Act. We've talked about new and innovative product designs. The rise of the modern tontines. Who go figure. Startups. Trying to do interesting ventures to demystify annuities for the broader set of population. People like Cheryl Moore, who are absolutely committed to collecting the facts, collecting the industry, telling the story, to some really, really good, people in the industry, agents who have been remarkably successful, some distributors, and then leaders at some carriers, that have really done some creative, interesting work for their companies.
Customize your data experience. BestLink now offers an interactive company dashboard that provides company-level intelligence in a fast, user-friendly interface featuring interactive tables, charts, and Sparkline performance histories. Customize the dashboard tiles to prioritize the insurer ratings, data, and analytics that best support your workflow. AM Best. Our insight, your advantage.
You mentioned Cheryl Moore. Who are some of the other guests that you've had on, Paul?
It's a walk. It would be a long walk through, and I would hate. I'll give you a few names of people, but I almost hesitate because I don't want to forget some of the great people we've had on here. Cheryl's one, Tom Hegna, Joe Jordan. We've had on multiple times. Very good list. If you go to That Annuity Show, you'll see them. But it's a wide range of people who we thought had something interesting to say and a message that would matter for people who listen.
Oh, let's talk about those listeners. Who are you finding your listeners to be?
Yeah, an interesting group over time. I would say we certainly don't attract an audience the size of Joe Rogan, but I'd say we've got an interesting mix of senior executives at carriers, people in the compliance industry. Believe it or not, we've got a lot of followers in compliance world. I think agents, distributors, and I think vendors out in the industry who are looking to figure out the most effective way for them to deliver some new technology, especially as the landscape is changing so quickly. How do I know that? Is when I go to these conferences, people say, I heard that show, it was great, and it's also nice when people tell me, afterwards, oh, I was on your show and this opened the door 3, 4, 5 weeks later for a large opportunity for us. So it's nice to be able to, give something back to people who are doing good things.
So obviously you're getting feedback there, Paul. What's some of the other feedback that you might be getting to the podcast?
I get a lot of very positive feedback when I go to conferences, see a lot of people. They say, listen, I've listened to your show. Also, when I ask people to come on our show, they know it, and they've said, oh, I've heard it, I'll listen to it, and happy to come on. I think part of who we've attracted have also been a result of the network of my fabulous co-hosts over the years, and that would include Bruno Caron. It would include Ramsey Clark. Ramsey's been a phenomenal person on our show. Over probably 100 of those, at least 100. I think he did probably at least 120 episodes with us. So it's been a communal effort. It's been something that's been, I'd say, personally rewarding, and it's again created opportunities for lot of people have been on the show for us.
Paul, obviously a podcast about annuities is a very niche topic. Regardless, how do you cut through all the white noise that's out there? Because everybody seems to have a Substack these days. Everybody has a blog or a TikTok or some platform. How do you get to people?
Yeah, great question. I think in this digital world, ironically, the more narrow you are, the louder your voice can be. If you're talking about a subject that has a small but very passionate audience, you can do some incredible things. Again, we're not going to be endorse any kind of line of sneakers in the next year. But I think we've developed a reputation that is something I think we're all proud of. Now, but you've got to change. You've changed. We've all evolved I would say probably 30 episodes in, we changed our formatting, made a huge difference. We actually attracted sponsors, from some of the carriers, really more as a way to help promote the show and carry the message and the voice out a little further. And you'll see more you'll see more evolution over time. I'm actually launching another podcast with Zinnia, focused a little more broadly in the life and annuity space, but I think we're also going to focus a little more on the technology and the innovation as opposed to the sort of the core carrier business.
Let's talk a little bit more about that. What are the future plans for your podcast, Paul?
Well, I think I'll probably, I think we've got a good crew that we built. I will be stepping away from that over the next coming months and launching a podcast with Zinnia. Hopefully, pulling some of my colleagues in on there. But really, I think, as you say, to stay relevant, I think one of the biggest challenges and opportunities we face is AI. I know there's been a lot of talk, there's a lot of buzz, but I do think if we look back over the last 50 years, I think the technology period we're in today will probably have the biggest impact of our time.
Well, best of luck. Paul, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us today.
Oh, listen, thank you so much. And I enjoy all the work and enjoy seeing you at the conferences as well with your studios.
That was Paul Tyler, host of That Annuity Show. And I'm John Weber for Best Review Magazine.
Looking to get the full attention of the insurance industry? We have the platforms that will do just that. Whether it be AM Best TV, AM Best Audio, Best Review Magazine, or Best Day. Find out more by calling AM Best Advertising Sales at 908-439-2200, extension 5399, and have a great day.